Greetings to you, friends. I'm coming to you during the month of November, actually October, which is the blood moon. The blood moon is a time of slaughter of the animals. Why do they slaughter the animals in October? The reason is because animals have been getting fat all summer, and especially last month during the great harvest. Not only is the harvest for humans, not only do we get to eat up, but they also eat a lot as well. So traditionally, indigenous people slaughter animals during the blood moon, which is in October. And it's coming up in, I think, next week. It's going to be the full moon. That moon is the blood moon, the time of slaughter. There's so many animals that you may be seeing them on the side of the road. I've been seeing a lot of dead raccoons lately, and it just brings me around to thinking about eating animals and slaughtering animals, and that human beings have been doing it for as long as we know, and that traditionally in indigenous culture, the slaughter of an animal was a ritual. It was done with great reverence and great respect and great compassion and empathy for the animal spirit, which lives up in heaven. Because just like the human species has an archetype representing it up in heaven, so does the animal spirits as well. Every animal has an archetype in heaven, and there's only one. Okay, so there's one rabbit in heaven, there's one cow, there's one horse, there's one chicken, there's one dog, and all of these animals are with Christ in heaven, and they work together for our highest, most pristine, most profound good, our evolution. The animals are our friends. They are our helpers. They have wisdom for us, and we also have wisdom for them, because as we evolve, as we grow, and as we learn, so do they, as does the earth itself. So traditionally in indigenous culture, when an animal was slaughtered, it would be a community event with singing and dancing, and even if it was a short ritual, which I'm sure over time the rituals got shorter and shorter, but they didn't slaughter animals all the time. It was only when there was an overabundance of animals they would slaughter them and they would dry the meat for the winter, because there's nothing growing in the winter time, and that's the way to survive through the winter. And they would use every single fiber, every single tissue of the animal, including the sinew, the bone, the fur, the fat, the gristle, everything. So indigenous people and indigenous wisdom lives inside of us still today. All of us human beings are indigenous in our hearts, because we all care about animals. We all want animals to feel the least amount of suffering, mostly because we're an animal and we want to feel the least amount of suffering. So we have that empathy with the animals. My prayer for this season is that humanity will begin to remember its indigenous wisdom and its native ways when it comes to animals, and when it comes to, of course, the slaughter and the consumption of animal meat and of animal products, that we will, as a rule, give animals the best life that we can, because we have to realize that these animals are the friends of Christ. There's one human archetype up in heaven called Christ, which I call the Avatar. And this Avatar is surrounded by animal friends. There's only one of each species represented up there. Okay? And these are friends of Christ. They work together. They They have a symbiotic relationship. All of the animals are put here for our evolution and development. And we, as well, have gifts and love for the animals. So my hope and my prayer is that humanity will remember this indigenous way and give animals a good life, allow them to raise their families, allow them to live out their lives in peace, allow them to mate in the natural way, allow them to give birth in the natural way, allow the animals to express their truest, most essential nature, which is wild, okay? And my prayer is that humanity will allow itself to express its wild nature as well, because humanity is just like the animals, living in cages and pens and, you know, off of synthetic drugs and, you know, on some kind of mating schedule or something. Humanity is not too far from that. So when we begin to change our minds, change our mindset from a contemporary consumer-based attitude when it comes to animals and back to an indigenous attitude when it comes to animals, that's when we will all experience greater freedom, greater integrity, and greater dignity without the cloud, the shadow over our head of, raising animals in appalling conditions just to have cheap animal products to consume. That is a crime, and that is a sin, and it breaks all of God's laws and all of God's rules. So I hope you've enjoyed this little walk with me today through the woods. Isn't it lovely? This is one of my favorite places. I'm still in Seattle. I mean, every place here is beautiful, no matter where you're at. And all the colors are changing. There's animals everywhere. And this is the time to visualize the things that I've said about animals having an archetype in heaven. Just imagine one Christ in heaven, surrounded by each of the animals. And in heaven, they don't have a gender. You know, the animal is what it is in its fullness. We don't know what we can be, and we don't know what the animals can be. Indigenous cultures had a very close connection where they would dress up as the animals, and they would communicate with the animals, and they would make offerings to the animal spirits, and they would communicate, and they would learn, and they would get knowledge that way. They became enlightened that way, and we can become enlightened that way now. Thank you so much for taking this walk with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a magnificent I'm not even sure what to call it, blood moon season. This is the time to eat up. It's the time to fatten up for winter. So eat up, eat responsibly, and get nice and fat for the winter, where your appetite is going to drop probably almost to zero, and you hibernate. Namaste. And just in addition to the message about the animals and stuff, I just want to say that this time of year has been totally hijacked by the forces of darkness, okay? This is not a dark time of year, you guys. This is the brightest time of year. This is the time when the veil between the material and the spiritual world is at its very thinnest point. And so we can acquire spiritual guidance, we can acquire spiritual nourishment from the spirit realm, we can acquire answers to our questions and guidance. So this is the time of year when rituals of light are most fruitful and most fertile and powerful, because there's more availability between the worlds. So as humans, we can reclaim our heritage as light workers and as light bearers, as indigenous people. Just because animals are slaughtered at this time of year doesn't mean that it's evil. There's nothing evil involved in a ritualistic slaughter of an animal when the animal is properly recognized and acknowledged as a divine spirit. You know what I mean? Like, I really wish that we could make a return to our indigenous ways and our indigenous knowledge. I'm walking around here and I'm seeing everything dark and ugly stuff, ghouls and ghosts and ugly this and that. And, you know, why does a ghost have to be ugly? You know, why does it have to be dark? Why does it have to be scary and stuff? The spirit world is not scary. You came from the spirit world. And when this body expires, you will return to the spirit world once again. It's nothing to fear, okay? It's something to communicate with at this time of the year as much as possible. So this is the time to meditate on the spirit world. Meditate on those who have already passed on and those who have information about the spirit world to share, and those who you would want to communicate with as well, your loved ones, or any wise people that have passed on. Now is the time to do it, and it's not a dark or scary thing. So let us live and let us breathe. Let us exist and have our being in the light. Amen.